Okay, in this class, we're going to look at the role of agriculture in a region. So, what's the importance of agriculture then? Well, people depend on a wide range of agricultural products in almost all aspects of life. You can think of it in terms of nutrition. So, it's a key determinant of human health. We need to produce food which is healthy. And if we can produce healthy food, then you'll have a healthy population. Of course, it's a provider of energy. Wood and so on can produce fuel. You can have wood directly, or can have charcoal and that kind of thing. And we use quite a bit of that. And of course, medicinal plants as well. Plants can be used to make medicines. And probably know even things such as ganja can be used to make uh, medicines. And of course, agriculture can be used to make fibers, cotton, for example. And of course, agriculture is a key economic driver, so it's central to individual livelihoods. Many people depend on agriculture for their livelihood, and this ranges from farm owners who make a large amount to manual workers uh, who make a small amount. So, agriculture is important for poverty alleviation, and it's important for a nation's economic growth, and it contributes between 40 to 60% of GDP of many African countries. So, in many countries, agriculture is vital for the country's GDP, and it's key to a healthy biosphere. Well, of course, certain agricultural practices result in an unhealthy biosphere, so it's something we need to look at. So, this is what the syllabus says. Explain the roles of agriculture in the region, and we can see different things which agriculture contributes to, such as food security, production of materials for agro processing industries, economic, I think there's others as well. No, that's assess the impact of. So, if you're asked to explain the role of agriculture in a region, what you must mention are food security, production of materials for agro processing industries, and economic. And we're going to look at these. And we're also going to assess the impact of agriculture on the environment. So we have technological, which has increased productivity, increased varieties, and improved resistance to pest infestation. You can use plants which are resistant, for example. So we can do that by plant breeding or genetic engineering. Increased varieties again, hybridization of different plants. And this can be induced and increased productivity. They're kind of all related. But we're going to start with food security. So, what is food security? It is defined by the United Nations Committee on World Food Security. Well, the term means that all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their food preferences and dietary needs for an active and healthy life. Note that it includes economic access, And in many parts of the world, people are so poor they can't afford food. And therefore, although a country might produce enough, there's a lack of food security because people don't have economic access to the food that is available. So, in order to have food security, you need to have poverty alleviation. Um, and I suppose um, it must be nutritious, and therefore we need to produce food which is nutritious, and it must be safe. In other words, we've got to be careful what we put on the food. For example, if we use a lot of insecticide, we must be careful that it's not on the food when it is consumed by people and so on. So, moving on, the world's population is increasing at an exponential rate, but the amount of arable land, that's land we can farm with, remains finite. Also, much of this land should remain in a virgin state because of the ecological services it provides. You know that ecosystems provide uh, ecological services, and therefore we can't simply clear away land and use it for farming because certain ecosystems are important in terms of preventing soil erosion, uh, keeping waters clean, and that kind of thing. And you might have heard of Thomas Malthus, who predicted that food production will not be able to match exponential growth in human populations. Uh, One of the things is that basically farming produce increased much more rapidly than Malthus, Malthus predicted. And the reason for this was his increase in technology and so on. We could use farm machinery and fertilizers, and therefore there's a rapid increase in agricultural productivity. However, this increase was not sustainable, and therein lies the problem. So, as I said, for some time this prophecy was not realized because of an increase in human knowledge resulted in an increase in agricultural production. However, natural resources are now being depleted, and climate change threatens global productivity. So, as well as unsustainable practices, we also have climate change, where you have excessive drought followed by flooding rather than steady rainfall. And global food security is therefore seriously challenged, and this is going to continue. So, different countries have different levels of food security, being highest in developed countries and lowest in developing countries. I suppose one thing you've got to look at there, however, is that even in some developed countries, such as the United States, uh, the poor people don't have access to nutritious food for economic reasons. And quite often, people living in the cities are a long way from farms and so on. So, getting fresh vegetables and so on is very difficult for them. So, it's not just third world countries alone. And this is a problem because developed countries have declining populations, but developing countries have expanding ones. That's an important point because in the developing countries, the population are expanding, but they're not food secure. and therefore food insecurity is likely to expand as well, unless we are careful. And malnourishment is generally considered to be a consequence of insufficient food intake because of a lack of food availability. However, in some countries, people are malnourished due to overconsumption of junk food and lacking a balanced diet. So in the US, for example, many people eat large amounts of potato chips and that kind of thing. And they end up malnourished because of the amount of junk food they consume. Yeah, if you look in the USA, the amount of money spent on potato chips, I think, goes into billions of dollars per year. And if that money could be utilized in more productive ways, it could help reduce poverty in developing countries and so on. But even in developing countries, malnourishment is often due to poor diet rather than the lack of availability of food. Many people simply don't eat wisely. Moving on. So after food security, the next issue was agro-processing. So if you remember, um, first of all, we have food security. The next one was agro-processing. So what is agro-processing? It refers to the conversion of farm produce into materials desirable by a consumer. So we can see all of these seasonings, for example. These are an example of agro-processing. And Jamaica does a fair amount of that. We make a fair amount of spices and sauces and so on. We probably could do more of it. So it enables a surplus to be converted into forms with longer shelf lives. For example, mangoes into mango chutney. If you look at mangoes, there's parts of South Manchester, for example, where there's large amount of mangoes produced and they just spoil. And we could probably convert them into mango chutney and export it because there's a demand for things such as mango chutney. So it can be carried out on a small scale, and with internet marketing, a small business owner can export to US and Europe. So now we can use the internet to market and sell our produce. And we're probably not doing enough in that sort of direction. So agro industries in Jamaica include the manufacture of beverages. I suppose you have fruit juices and that kind of thing. Fruit jams, liqueurs. These are alcoholic drinks such as rums and coffee liqueur, and I suppose you have orange liqueur, and quite a variety of fruit liqueurs, alcoholic drinks made from fruit juices and so on. Confectionery, especially things such as chocolates. We have produced a lot of cocoa, which we can turn into chocolate. Seasonings, spices, nutraceuticals, biofuels, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals. So all of these can be produced uh, from produce in Jamaica, and it is something that we ought to perhaps take more seriously, so we can develop. Well, they can contribute more to GDP than they currently do, and also they can provide employment and so on. So agriculture also provides employment. So as well as the manual workers, you have agronomists, plant pathologists, plant and animal breeders, agricultural engineers, soil scientists, farm managers. And so some of these professions can uh, pay quite a bit. So agriculture doesn't just provide for manual labourers, but also has some well-paying jobs as well. So foreign exchange earnings, and Jamaica generates foreign exchange through export of coffee, sugar, cocoa, bananas, citrus, coconut, rums, and liqueurs. And in Jamaica, agriculture accounts for 7.4% of Jamaica's GDP. There should be a way of increasing that, um, which we ought to try to do. So agriculture is important in terms of GDP production. Now, technology in agriculture at one time referred to techniques of biotechnology, such as tissue culture, genetic engineering, production of polyploid organisms, hydroponics, use of tractors and other machines, drip irrigation and sprinklers, vertical farms, and water timers. So when we talk about uh, technology in agriculture, you should think of things such as tissue culture, genetic engineering, and so on. However, currently technology refers to the use of computers in industry. So we can have robots and drones, soil and water sensors, satellite imaging and GPS systems. So for technology in agriculture, we've got to be careful. Are we referring to the first set of terms or the second set of terms? And if in doubt, mention both of them. Um, so in tissue culture, fuel cells are used to regenerate an entire new plant, and this plant will be identical to the parent plant, and it can be used to generate many new plants very rapidly. So this is an example of tissue culture. You just cut a small amount of the plant and use it to generate a large number of new plants. Um, then polyploid plants include wheat, bananas, or peanuts, bananas, coffee, brassica, which are cabbage, lettuce, kale, Brussels sprouts, etc., Irish potato, strawberry, and watermelon. And polyploidy, of course, is where you have more than a diploid number, such as 3n, 4n, 5n, etc. Remember, most things are diploid. Bananas, for example, are triploid. Um, strawberries are polyploid, but they varies. Watermelons are often pentaploid. Um, the point is, if the ploidy number is an odd number, like 3n, 5n, 7n, the organism will be seedless. This is an example of vertical farming, where you have a large number of floors containing plants. This is on a very large scale. Notice these columns aren't quite vertical, so that all of the plants can be exposed to light. If it's too vertical, then the plants at the bottom aren't going to be exposed to light. But if it's like this, the shadows, no shadows going to fall on them. So in vertical farming, you arrange the layers in such a way that none of them will be exposed directly to, well, none of them won't get any sunlight. So the whole point is so that all layers of the plant can be exposed to sunlight. So you don't have it exactly vertical, although it can go for many stories into the sky, as we have here. And robots and drones, for that matter, can also be used for harvesting, mowing, seeding, spraying, sorting and packaging, livestock monitoring and irrigation. So here we have drones which are watering maybe tea plants or something. We have drones involved in. It may not be irrigation. There might be spreading, uh, spraying pesticide onto the crop. That's probably more like pesticide control, pest control. They have a robot picking strawberries. So you can use robots to pick strawberries. And you can probably pick them for 24 hours a day. So unlike laborers, that they don't get any time off. And GPS-based applications in precision farming being used for farming, for farm planning, can map out soils, can guide tractors. We can use variable rates of crop pesticide applications and so on. We can map out farms and we can determine the quality of the soil in different locations and so on. So you can work out what to plant where. And GPS allows farmers to work during low visibility field conditions, such as rain, dust, fog, and darkness. So with GPS, systems can work even in the darkness, which would not be possible normally. So here we have a computer with a GPS system in a farm building, which can send instructions to trucks, the plows of all kinds, irrigation systems. So the GPS system, by working along with the computer, can guide farm machinery. And all of this is part of technology um, used in farming. And that finishes this presentation. So we'll leave it at this point.